This time, I will report the speech before the joint session of the United States Congress held on September 18, 1986 in Washington, D.C. Mr. Speaker, Senator Turmon, distinguished members of Congress, 3 years ago, I left America in grief to bury my husband, Ninoy Aquino. I thought I had left also to lay to rest his restless dream of Filipino freedom. Today I have returned as the President of free people. In burying Ninoy, a whole nation honored him by the brave and selfless act of giving honor to a nation and shame recovered its own. A country that had lost faith in its future, founded in a faithless and brazen act of murder. So in giving we receive, in losing we find. And out of defeat we snatch our victory. For the nation, Ninoy became the blazing sacrifice that answered death. Prayers for freedom for myself and our children. Ninoy was a loving husband and father. His loss 3 times in our lives was always a deep and painful one. 14 years ago, this month was the first time we lost him. A president turned dictator and traitor to his oath, suspended the Constitution and shut down the Congress that was much like this one before which I'm honored to speak. He detained my husband along with 1,000 of other senators, publishers, and anyone who had spoken up for the democracy as its end drew near. But for Ninoy, a long and cruel ordeal was reserved. The dictator already knew that Ninoy was not a body merely to be imprisoned, but a spirit he must break, for even as the dictatorship demolished one by one in the institution of democracy, the President, the Congress, and the independence of judiciary. The protection of the Bill of Rights, Ninoy kept their spirit alive himself. The government sought to break him the indignities and terror. They locked him up in a tiny, early cell in a military camp in the north. They stripped him naked and the head treat a sudden midnight execution over his head. Ninoy held up manfully. Under all of it, I barely did as well. For 43 days, the authorities would not tell me what happened to him. This was the first time my children and I felt we had lost him. When that didn't work, they put him on a trial for subversion, murder, and a host of other crimes before a military commission. Ninoy challenged his authority and went on a fast. If he survived it, then he felt God intended him for another fate. We had lost him again, for nothing would hold him back from his determination to see his path through the end. He stopped only when it dawned on him that the government would keep his body alive after the fast had destroyed his brain. And so, with barely and life in his body, he called the fast on the 4th day. God meant him for other things. He felt he did not know that an early death would still be his fate, that only the timing was wrong. At any time during his long ordeal, Ninoy could have made a separate peace with the dictatorship as so many of his countrymen had done. But the spirit of democracy, the inherent in our race, and animate this chamber could not be allowed to die. He held out in the loneliness of his cell and the prostration of exile, the democratic alternative to the insatiable greed and mindless cruelty of the right and the purging holocaust of the left. And then we lost him irrevocably and more painfully than in the past. The news came to us in Boston. It had been after the 3 happiest years of our lives together. But his death was my counter-resurrection, and the courage and faith in which alone they could be free again. The dictator had called him a nobody, yet 2 million people threw aside their passivity in fear and escorted him to his grave. And so began the revolution that has brought me to democracy, most famous home, the Congress of the United States. The task had fallen on my shoulder to continue offering the democratic alternative of our people. The Archibald MacLeish had said that democracy must be defended by arms, with attacked by arms. And with truth, when it is attacked by lies, he failed to say how it shall be won. I held fast to Ninoy's conviction that it must be by the ways of democracy. I held out for participation in the 1984 election. The dictatorship called even if I knew it would be raised. I was warned by the lawyers of the opposition that I ran the grave risk of legitimizing the foregone result of elections that were clearly going to be fraudulent, but I was not fighting for lawyers but for the people in whose intelligence I had implicit faith by the exercise of democracy. Even in a dictatorship, they would be prepared for democracy. When it came, and then also, it was only way I knew by which we could measure our power, even in the terms dictated by the dictatorship. The people vindicated me in an election shamefully marked by government thuggery and fraud. The opposition swept the election, garnering a clear majority of votes, even if they ended up, thanks to the Corruption Commission on Election, with barely a third of the seats in Parliament. Now, I knew our power. Last year, in an excess of arrogance, the dictatorship called its doom and a snap election. The people of League, with over 1 million signatures, they drafted me to a challenge dictatorship, and I of League. The rest is the history that dramatically unfolded on your television screen and across the front page of your newspapers. You saw a nation armed with the courage and integrity, stand fast by democracy against threats and corruption. You saw women poll watchers break out in the thirst as armed guns crushed on the part of the Filipino people. The ultimate result was the election of Ms. Corazon Aquino as President and Mr. Salvador Laurel as Vice President of the Philippines. When a subservient parliament announced my opponent's victory, the people then turned out in the streets and proclaimed me the president of all the people. And true to their word, when the handful of military leaders declared themselves against the dictatorship, the people rallied to their protection. Surely the people take care of their own. It is on that faith and the obligation it entails that I assume the presidency as I came to power peacefully. So shall I keep it. That is my contract with my people and my commitment to God. He had well that the blood drawn with a lash not shall not in my country be paid by blood drawn by the sword, but by the tearful joy of reconciliation. We have swept away absolute power by a limited revolution that respected the life and freedom of every Filipino. Now we are restoring full constitutional government. Again, as we restore democracy by the ways of democracy. So we so are we completing the constitutional structures of our new democracy under a constitution that already gives full respect to the Bill of Rights? A jealously independent constitutional commission is completing its draft, which will be submitted later this year to a popular referendum. When it is approved, there will be elections for both national and local position. So within about a year from a peaceful but national upheaval that overturned a dictatorship, we shall have returned to full constitutional government. Given the polarization and breakdown we inherited, this is no small achievement. My predecessor set aside democracy to save it from a communist insurgency that numbered less than 500. Unhampered by respect for human rights, he went at it with hammer and tongs. By the time he fled, that insurgency had grown to more than 16,000. I think there is a lesson here to be learned about trying stifle a thing with the means by which it grows. I don't think anybody in or outside our country concerned for a democratic and open Philippines doubt what must be done. Through political initiatives and local reintegrations program, we must seek to bring the insurgents down from the hills and by the economic progress and justice. Show them that which the best intention among them. Fight as a president among my people, I will not betray the cause of peace by which I came to power. Yet, equally and again, no friend in Filipino democracy will challenge this. I will not stand by and allow an insurgent leadership to spam our offer of peace and kill our young soldiers and threaten our new freedom. Yet, I must explore the path of peace to the utmost, for at its end, whatever disappointment I meet there is the moral basis for laying down the olive branch of peace and taking up the swords of war. Still, should it come to that, I will not waver from the course laid down by your great liberator. With malice towards none, with charity for all, with firmness in the rights as God gives us to see the right. Let us finish the work we are in to bind up the nation wounds, to care for him who shall have burned the battle and for his widow and for his orphans, to do all which many achieve and cherish as just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. Like Abraham Lincoln, I understand that force may be necessary before mercy. Like Lincoln, I don't release it. Yet I will do whatever it takes to defend the integrity and freedom of my country. Finally, may I turn to that other slavery, our $26 billion foreign debt. I have said that we shall honor it, yet the means by which we shall be able to do so are kept from us. Many of the conditions imposed on the previous government that stole this debt continue to be imposed on us who never benefited from it, and no assistance of liberality commensurate with the calamity that was vested on us have been extended. Yet our must have been cheapest revolutions ever, with a little help from others. We Filipino fulfilled the first and most difficult condition on the debt negotiation. The full restoration of democracy and responsible government elsewhere and in other times. A more stringent world economic condition, Marshall plans and their like were felt to be necessary companions of returning democracy. When I meet with President Reagan, we began an important dialogue about cooperation in the strengthening of friendship between our two countries. That meeting was both a confirmation and a new beginning. I am assured it will lead to positive results in all areas of common concern. Today, we face the aspiration of people who have known us, who have known so much poverty and massive unemployment for the past 14 years, and yet offer their lives for the abstraction of democracy. Wherever I went in the campaign, slum area or impoverished village, they came to me with one cry: democracy. Not food, although they clearly needed it, but democracy. Not work, although they surely wanted it, but democracy. Not money, for they gave what little they had to my campaign. They didn't expect it to work a miracle that would instantly put food into their mouths, clothes into their back, education in their children, and give them work that will put dignity in their lives. But I feel the pressing obligation to respond quickly as a leader of the Filipino, of the people, so deserving of all these things. We face a communist insurgency that feeds on economic deterioration, even as we carry a great share of the free world defenses, the help to preserve it. 3 years ago, I said, "Thank you, America, for the having from operations and the home you gave Ninoy, myself, and our children, and for the 3 happiest years of our lives together." Today I say, join as America as we build a new home for democracy. Another haven for the oppressors, said, so it may stand as a shining testament of our two nations' commitment. That's all. And I have prepared here some questions regarding my report. And 1 to 6 is for the identification. And number 1, was the speaker distinguishing members of Congress? Answer, Senator Thurmond. How many years? Number 2, how many years ago when Mrs. Corazon Aquino left America and grieved to bury her husband, Ninoy Aquino? Answer is 3 years. For number 3, who has the witness to an extraordinary manifestation of democracy of the part of the Filipino people? The answer is the co-chairman of the United States Observer Team. And for number 4, it was for Ninoy during his long ordeal what could have made with the dictatorship as many of his countrymen had done. The answer is separate peace. Who has the President meet Corazon Aquino to begin the important dialogue about the cooperation and the strengthening of friendship? The answer is President Reagan. For number 6, what for? Why Miss Corazon Aquino joined us America as we build a new home, that is for democracy. And 7 to 20, it is for fill in the blank or complete the sentence. Number 7 to 8 question. A president sworn blank and blank to his oath. The answer is dictator and traitor. 9 to 11, so in giving, we blank, and losing, we blank, and out of defeat, we blank our victory. The answer is receive, find, and snatch. 12 to 15, but his blank was my country blank, and the courage of blank by which alone they could blank again. The answer is death, resurrection, faith, and free. For number 16 to 18, Corazon Aquino said they come one by one, cry for blank. Not food, although they clearly needed it, but blank. Not work, although they surely wanted it, but blank. That is democracy. 17, democracy. 18 is democracy also. 19 to 18, I was blank to an extraordinary manifestation of blank on the part of the Filipino. That is